What up? Welcome to Mr. Brown's class where there's no whining and no complaining. Now we're looking at factoring advanced. Okay, so this is a more advanced factoring. And then we're going to look at simplifying expressions using factoring. Right, so we know from factoring that we're pulling out the greatest common factor. All right, in this case, a polynomial. All right, two monomials, two terms. Okay. So let's first look at the first number, the coefficient. All right, what's the greatest common factor of 6 and 8? Well, it's going to be 2. Let's write that a little bit lower. Okay, so then the easiest part is looking at the letters. So we're going to take, they have both A's, all right? Now we're going to take the smallest version of that letter. Okay, so the smallest version is A to the first. Okay, so that's the greatest common factor because this has one A, but this does not have two A's, so we can't take away 2 from this. All right, now we look at the B's. This has 3 B's, right? This has 2, right? So we take the smaller of the letters, the variables. Now this does not have a C, so we can't factor out a C. Right, so that's on the outside of our parentheses. And then we're going to divide it by what we're factoring, our greatest common factor. Okay, now you don't have to write this part out. After a while, you'll just be able to do it without this. But 6 divided by 2 is 3. A divided by A is, they both cancel out. B to the third divided by b squared, this cancels out, and this is left with just 1. So you're just left with 3b plus 8 divided by 2 is 4. Right? A squared divided by a is a. B squared divided by b squared, those cancel each other out, so there's no b's left. And then you're left with a c. And you can't add these together because they're not like terms. This has a B and this is a C, right? So you're just left with this being your answer. And you're going to see why this is important at the end of this. I keep saying with these videos that you're going to come across these a lot and use them to solve equations. And this is when you're going to start doing it. Okay, so pause it and see if you can do this one on your own. All right, so let's look at the coefficient. Right? What's the greatest common factor of 8 and 12? That's going to be 4. Now, what's the smallest C? Because they both have C's. C to the third. Right? They both have D's, so which one has the smaller D? Right? D squared. Right? And we look at the E's. This has just one E, so that's all we can factor out. And we divide this by this. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. C to the fourth divided by C to the third is just C. D squared divided by D squared, they cancel each other out. And E divided by E cancels each other out. So you're just left with 2C on the inside. It's subtraction, so we're going to put a subtraction symbol. 12 divided by 4 is 3. This cancels out this, right? We're left with 2 D's, right? And just 1 E. And there you go. I shouldn't have crossed that out, all right? So don't ignore that part, all right? So that would be your factoring. See if you can do this one also. This is a trinomial, all right? So the greatest common factor is going to be 2. And the small, they all have x's, so x goes on the outside. All right, now we're going to divide 6 divided by 2, that's 3. X to the third divided by x is x squared. All right, 8 divided by 2 is 4. Right, and you're just left with 1x. And then minus 2x divided by 2x is just 1. Don't make that 0. Okay, that's very important. Okay, we're going to come across these a lot. All right, one last one until we start simplifying. All right, so pause it. All right, so they both have 9, so 9 is going to go on the outside. X to the fourth is the smallest variable when it comes to x, and then y is the smallest variable when it comes to y's. All right, well, 9 divided by 9 is 1. We don't have to write the 1 unless it eliminates everything, which it might. X to the fourth divided by x to the fourth, the x's are gone. Y squared divided by y. All right, so we're just left with a y there, so we don't need the 1. 9 divided by 9 is 1. X is 6 divided by x to the fourth is x squared. And then the y's cancel out. So that's all you're left with there. All right, now we're going to factor and then simplify these expressions. Okay, so we're going to use our factoring to simplify. All right, now, in this case, you could just divide both by 3, right? But we don't want to get in the habit of that because we're going to see here on these harder ones that you can't, you're not going to be able to do that because these two things are being added, right? And this is just a monomial. So, and when they're being added like this, right, you can't divide both, okay? And you'll see as we go along. All right, so let's factor out the top. Right, what do they both have in common, the greatest common factor? They both have 3. So 3p divided by 3 is going to be p. 3 divided by 3 is going to be 1. So that's what you're left with after you factor on the top, and you have a 3 on the bottom. All right, now those can cancel out. All right, so when something's being multiplied by something and you just have one thing on the bottom, you can factor those out. So you're left with just p plus 1. Now in this case, that would have worked in this, but in most circumstances, that's not going to work. Okay, here, let's look at the top. You can factor out 4 out of the top. So 4x divided by 4 is x. 8 divided by 4 is 2. You have that 4 on bottom, and these can cancel each other out, so you're left with x plus 2. All right, this is a little bit more complex here. All right, so you see that you both have a 5. 5 can go into 5 and 5x, so that's the greatest common factor of those two numbers. All right, so we put a 5 on the outside. All right, now we look for the smallest variable, which is x. All right, and then we're going to divide. 5x divided by 5x is 1. All right, nothing's left except for 1 when we divide like that. And then subtract 25x squared divided by 5x is going to be 5x. That's the inside. Okay, now on the bottom, you have 5xy. Now, we can reduce only things when something's being multiplied. All right, so this 5x can't cancel out that 5x, but it can because we pulled it out and factored. All right, we can reduce this. So this 5 cancels out that 5. This x cancels out that x. So you're just left with 1 minus 5x over y. So again, this cannot cancel out that 5x here because it's being added and subtracted. All right, and this goes back to PEMDAS. All right, so because we have to multiply first. All right, on this one, all right, we have a 6. It's the greatest common factor, so 6. The smallest variable is a. This one's going to look very similar to the last one. All right, so then we're left with 6a divided by 6a is 1 minus 36a squared divided by 6a is going to be 6a. And again, just like the last one, looks almost identical. This 6 cancels out, the A cancels out. All right, again, we cannot reduce with this because it's being subtracted. So we're left with 1 minus 6A over B. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, and these get a lot more complex. All right, but this is an important step right here. Just knowing that if once you pull it out, you can only factor or reduce with those numbers, not from the ones being added and subtracting. If you like this video, make sure that you subscribe and like below, and remember to be more awesome.